What's up, guys? Wally's Welding World here. So this is just a DIY on how to do a circle cutter, aka circle burner. This is pretty much what I could just get my hands on, so I'm giving you guys kind of an idea of how to build one. This is half of a pipe, kind of like a saddle. That's just a large rod, 3/16. 1 inch pipe is what I used here. These are just some 3/8 nut and screws here. I would definitely get something a little bit longer, but this is what I could get my hands on, so I was using this. Again, this is 1 inch pipe, about ½ inch. This is going to be the top that holds the top of my torch. So just pay attention. Right now what I'm doing is I'm sharpening a tip on one of the bolts because I need me a fine point to get into my center punch here. This right here will establish pretty much, like I said, wherever I put my center punch, that'll sit in my center punch. This is a hole I had to cut in with my torch. I didn't have a drill, so I just cut the hole. What I'll do is I'll just tack that washer to it there. I mean, not the washer, but the nut. Right here it showed that I went and tacked the ½ inch pipe to the front. I will weld it all the way around, but right now I just got it tacked up. You can see I just tacked on the nut there. Want to make sure that your threads can screw in there. Then you'll cut the other half off and weld it to that. If I could do it again, I'd probably make that about another ½ inch longer. This is the torch setup after I'd already got it all tacked up. Make sure you put this on first before you put your saddle on. You can see right here I took a cone stone and I kind of sunk it a little bit there, so that way the torch can sit in there from the contour perfectly. Pretty simple, guys. Here's it in action now. This is me pretty much just cutting the saddles out of the pipe. This is what I designed it for. This is what I needed it for. I didn't have anything like this. Nobody had anything like this available, so I just built one. I've built many of them and given them away. I've built many of them and destroyed them. I've built many of them and lost them. This one I'll probably just toss it in the back of my box and build a new one. I wasn't really too happy about how this one came out, but it did the job and that's all I needed it for. So when you're tracing these circles and cutting them, you have to have the right measurements for the repad. This is a repad, and I'll show you guys in a second what it kind of does. I did share earlier on my Instagram what I was building. Notice on my cut I'm not getting that good of a cut, so you can see I go outside of the cut so I don't ruin the repad on the inside there. If you're going to mess up the cut, mess it up on the outside of the pipe, not the inside of the cut, outside of the cut. So again, this is just the circle burner in action, making it happen. This is for repads. Bam. This is the repad after it's been cut out. A couple of them. There's me attempting to cut my other one. It actually came out pretty good. I wasn't happy with what I had to work with, but it worked. You'll notice I kind of got the torch tilted back a little bit there. You don't want it straight down. You kind of want it at an angle so that way you can keep that flame cutting in front of you and pushing that cut with the oxygen. It's important. If you point it the other way, you're not going to get a good cut, or you might not even get a cut at all. So it's important to always kind of have it slanted forward. One thing I forgot when I did this is you can see I got 2 holes punched up there. I accidentally had it off. So when you're doing this, you got to make sure that you're doing the right center punch and cutting on the right one, because I did mess one up earlier today because of that other punch there, and I ended up cutting the inside hole in the wrong spot. So pay attention when you're doing stuff like this. It's been a while since I've had to cut anything like this, but they knew I knew what I was doing, so they let me do this. See, I was getting a better cut this time. The helper's kind of showing off the cut. Now this cut right here will get welded, because it gets welded on the outside of it. This is the outside cut of the repad. You always want to cut the outer one first and never the center one, because the center one is actually going to be your next hole that you cut out of the repad. If you cut it first, then you're not going to be able to accomplish this outer cut around here. Again, this is a repad, cutting it out of a 10-inch pipe. Oh, lost my flame there, so I had to restart it. If you got a cherry on the inside of the pipe, you can turn off the oxygen and relight it with your acetylene. And then you can get right back in your cut and cut it. I had to cut 4 of these today, so I'm on my 4th one. Actually, I had to cut 5 of them because I messed one up. But this is my 4th one I was cutting. Lots of fire. Try to stay out of the line of fire there. And bam. Another repad. So I made my helper put him back on here and made him tack them right here and right here. I told him to tack this one on, and we actually had to pull it off because it was in my way of getting in the center cut on the next one. So I told him just tack one up on a time, and just so we can have it somewhere nice to where we can go ahead and get the center cut. Watch your eyes, don't get blinded. He wanted to keep welding, I had to keep telling him to stop. Stop, stop. So here is the repads after I had cut the center ones out, and I had already grinded and cleaned them up. You'll notice that I have a bevel on the inside of that because the pipe that slides in between it, I got to make sure I get a full penetration on it as well. One thing I haven't done yet is I haven't cut drilled my wheat holes into it. Here's the pipe after it's been cut. Still probably room to get 2 more repads out of that on the opposite side. That is a 12 by 12 repad with about a 6-inch center. Look at what it is showing. Here's what actually sinks down into them. Put them up on my wheel so I could go ahead and grind off all this paint. I tried to buff it off, but it wasn't happening, so I just went ahead and grinded it. Grabbed my grinder with my right hand, threw it under the helper, grabbed it with my left. Got to get to work. Can't stop him from doing what he's doing. I need him to keep moving so that way I can keep moving as well. Establish my first line and then just slowly kind of grind it and get all that paint. The paint was really heavy. I tried to take it off with a flapper disc and it didn't work that well. So I grabbed the hard disc and I started using the hard disc. Now the momentum of my grinder keeps that wheel spinning, and I use an impact to keep it on my rollout wheel. Otherwise, if it's not tight enough, it could come off and go rolling like a Flintstone tire. Once I get it done there, I usually flip it on the front and just grind the paint off that anyways, because once I sink that down into the pipe, I'm going to have to get a full penetrated weld on that. This actually gets cut into the pipe, but make sure the repad goes on first and maybe use some wire to hang it up on the bolts, and then the repad will fold down and weld. Well, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Kind of just a DIY on how to do it. Please comment, subscribe, and like it if you do. Thank you.